is Joanna from Pins and Needles and Sew It Online. I'm here with Michelle. Today we're gonna show you guys how to support Ukraine by making this awesome quilt block. I love the fact that all the quilters around the world are united together to support Ukraine.
So this block was created by Pat Sloan. She is a very well-known quilter in the quilt world, and she came up with this block. It's a star and a star, and it's to show strength and support for the Ukraine family, friends. We have family and friends here at Pins and Needles that are trying to help their families, and those of us that we live very close to a very large Ukraine community, and this is just a really cool way to do that. So thank you to Pat Sloan. She does have a Facebook page. She also has, you can go to www.patsloan.com, and it also has, it says ilovetomakequilts.com, a site for passionate quilters hosted by Pat Sloan. So thank you for her for doing all this. So this particular block can be finished by 18 and a half, I believe 18 inches square, or let's see, there's one more size. And these directions that I'm going to be following can be on her Facebook group, or even just go to patsloan.com, and I'm sure you'll be able to find them. And hopefully we can have a link also that you can get to them. You can also make the block that will finish 24 inches square. So we do have the finished block here. I'll show you this here. What you need is some white, yellow, and blue fabrics. In the directions, it'll tell you exactly how much you need. Some other things you might need are a friction pen, one of these great 1/4-inch rulers, a regular rotary cutter, and a square ruler really helps when you have to square off some of these blocks. You'll need a pressing, an iron, a pressing mat. And one of the other things I love is one of these clappers. It helps you really get a nice flat seam on your quilts. And one other thing, either pins or these wonderful Wonder Clips that you can use. And I'll show you how I use them to make this block. So in the directions, the second page tells you the fabric requirements, and it starts off making the center block. And that's this one right here, this center block right here. Okay, so this first block here is just a regular square. So are the outside corners. I believe those are 3 or 3.5 inches. But then we need to add these corners so that we can create that inner star. So in order to do that, we are going to take one of these squares, and then I believe this is, let me double check what the size of this is. Looks like these are 2-inch squares, but again, check your the directions as to which one, what the size of each of these squares are. I have the right side up, and I have taken all of these squares, these small yellow ones, and I have put in a center marking, just so I know. I'm going to sew on that line, and that's going to create my corners in this block. So I'm going to take the first one. I'm going to put it here. And do you see where I'm going to stitch from here to here? And I have right sides together. That's very important, right sides together. Now I have my machine, since I'm just going down the center, I don't have anything special. I'm just going to sew down. And I want to make sure that that square stays in the corner. Okay. Once I have that done, I'm going to flip this open, and I'm going to match my points right here, and I'm going to give it a press. Now in her directions, it shows that how many blocks you need to make a lap quilt, or even just a single star to hang in your window or on your front door. So this is the second piece. Again, right sides together. I'm going to sew across. And it's okay, you want to make sure that this one is folded out when you go and sew. So once I have this one done, I'm going to flip this out. And it's very important to match that corner and give it a press. Now once you're done with this block, you're going to notice that you've got this space right here. That's very important. We need that. That's our 1/4 inch seam allowance for when we sew it into the next block. So as you can see on the board behind me, this center block, we're going to make 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. So again, we put the corners on, sew each one out, give it a good press. This is what it looks like. And we are going to have those on the ends. Once those are done, we're going to take these 2 and sew them together. These 2 sew together. These 2 sew together. Okay? Then we'll add that. And then we'll put the rows together. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter if you go horizontally or vertical. It's your choice. And once we have that inner star made, we're going to then continue on to the outer star directions. Now, part of the outer star, there's 2 different blocks. We want to focus on really accuracy with this. 1/4 inch seam allowance is very important. What we're also going to do is it helps if you lay out all of your pieces to this block. Lay it out so you know where everything is. One of the things that I like to do is use these Wonder Clips. So if I need to sew quite a few things together, I put them together. It's kind of like chain piecing. So let's start with this one. This is just, you know, a 4 patch. It's got, the sizes are in the directions, and you're going to make a simple 4 patch. And let's make one of these now. I have 3 of them done already. So when I say using these, let me put my blocks together. And when you have a white on white fabric, make sure that, you know, you are working with the correct size, the side, because a lot of white on whites are hard to tell if it's the front or the back. So I need to put these 2 together and these 2 together. So I'm going to flip them over. And what I like to do is just do a Wonder Clip, and I know that's the side that I have to sew on. Because I tell you what, sometimes you go from here to there and you've already messed it up. I don't know how it happens, but it just does. So then I'm going to put a Wonder Clip on here. And I know that these are the ones that I have to sew, the sides that I have to sew. So let's do a quick 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now I'm using the Brilliant today. And the Brilliant has a really good 1/4 inch seam by using your J-foot. Now on this particular machine, it's stitch number 25, and it moves the needle all the way over to the right and gives you a perfect 1/4 inch seam allowance to follow that, that side of the presser foot. I'm going to open this up, and I'm going to press to the dark. And what that means is I'm going to lay the dark side on top. I'm going to open this up, give it a finger press. That means my seam is going toward the dark side, the darker fabric. So I'm going to give this a quick press. And I like to use that clapper too to kind of help, you know, flatten that seam out. Let's do the other one so we can show you how this block goes together. And to me, it doesn't matter if I have the white or the blue fabric on top. It doesn't make any difference. All right, now I've got my 1/4 inch. I'm going to lay the dark fabric on top. Fold it open. finger press it, and I'm going to give it a quick press with the iron. Now, when you put these two together, what's really important is to see how tight and how close you can get those points together. Now, if they're off a little bit, don't worry about it. There's no quilt police out there that's going to make you rip it out. But in order to get this really nice and tight, here's a little trick. You're going to take your fabric, and our block is actually needs to be sewn like this. When I put right sides together, and because of the way we pressed it, we now have what they call a nested seam. So I'm not worried about the ends, but what I want to do is right here. Let me see if I can get this. So do you see how I have one seam coming toward me and the other seam is going away from me? That means that they're going to lock together when I put them together and I sew across. I'm going to have a nice point right there. So you can use pins if you like. If it's a small seam, you don't have to worry about it too much. But go ahead and let's give this a sew, and I can show you this block. So we'll finish this one, and I'm going to press it open. One of the things I do like to do you see how nice that point came out? Just by nesting those seams. You can do this with any quilt block. Now at this point, I'm going to press the back, and it kind of wants to tell you where and how it wants to be pressed. So I'm just going to lay that down, give it a good press. Pressing is so important when you do these quilt blocks. And because you also want to make sure that there's no like crease in it, because you can actually lose like 1/8 of an inch on a block just if it's not pressed correctly. So let's take a look at the board here, and we can see that we're going to take our fabrics right sides together. We're going to sew 2 together. Then we're going to sew the 4 together so we have a 4 patch. Okay? That's going to be the corners of our quilt block. Next, we're going to make these flying geese. Now, we're going to make 2 units at once. I'm going to just go over this real quick. We're going to take 2 pieces of fabric, right sides together. I'm going to show you how to use that ruler. We're going to sew on the 1/4 inch, press it open, and then we're going to trim it down to a 5-inch square. So let's take a look at those blocks now. I have one here that I wanted to show you. So I've taken, let me see what I got. Yeah, I've taken 2 fabrics, the yellow and the white, right sides together. Now I use this great ruler, and you can do this a couple of different ways. I like to start with the lightest fabric on top. I place my ruler on here and I go end to end. Let me move all these down. I'm going to place my ruler on here, and I'm going to take my friction marker wherever I have left it. This ruler has a line down the center, and from the center out is a 1/4 inch. When I go to mark this, I will stitch on the lines that I actually mark. So I'm going to place it corner to corner. And they have different lengths of these, which are really handy. I'm going to just draw on one side and then use my marker and draw on the other side. Okay. I started sewing. I just sewed on this particular line. This is my center line. If you choose to mark your center line, you can do so and then use a 1/4 inch guide on your machine to, sew a 1/4 inch over from the center. So let me finish sewing this other side. Some of the machines out there now also have a guide beam that you can put a 1/4 inch over, and you don't even need to mark, both 1/4 inch sides. All right. Once I have this, you can use a rotary cutter or you can even use just a pair of scissors, and I'm going to just trim right down the center. Once I have that, I can open them each up, and I have a half square triangle. I'm going to give each of those a press. And again, to the dark side. And my dark is my yellow. So I'm going to make sure my yellow is on top, and I'm going to flip it open. Give it a press first to set that seam. Open it up. And I have my half square triangle, and I'll do that with both pieces. After I'm done, I'm going to trim this. And I'm going to trim, especially where these little, they call them dog ears, or I call them little dog ears. You trim those off before you sew them to the next block. Now, in the directions, it calls for a certain size block. I believe it is a 5-inch square, and you can sew these together, again, right sides together. If you are a little concerned about your accuracy, you can make this into, instead of 5-inch squares, make like 5.5 or even a 6-inch square. Put the right sides together. Do exactly what I did before. Sew them together. And when you are done and you open them up, then trim them down to the size that it says in the directions. And one of the ways you can do that is using a ruler. Let's see if I can get this off of the table. Let me move all my stuff over now. So this square ruler has a nice line all the way down the center. So when you trim a block, so if I'm going to trim this block, I'm going to put that center line right on the center seam line of that block, and I can trim it down. So I can bring it all the way up to the top. If I need a 5-inch or a 6-inch, again, make sure that center line is in that center of that block, okay? Once you have all of those trimmed down to the correct size, you're going to take them and you're going to put right sides together, and you're going to sew. Now, this is, again, very careful when you lay out your block. It's very easy to get them turned around, so make sure they are in the right direction. And you will have 4 of these that look exactly like this, along with the 1/4-inch seam on top. We need that on top so that when we sew this together, you are going to have a perfect point right in the seam. So let me show you all these put together. Let me put these together. Now again, you can make a lap size quilt. You can make these blocks, maybe just a single block with a border on it if you choose to. So there's all different ways to make a block, but more importantly, it's a block that says that you are supporting the Ukraine and you want to do something to show them that, we are behind them, and whatever we can do, we're going to help them out. So do you see how these are sewn together, the center star? And then if you look, you can see the outside, these half square triangles, and then your 4 corners are your 4 patch. Once they're all sewn together, this is a time where you can add a border, add sashing, and add other quilt blocks. It goes together very easily. I have one displayed on my front door right now, and we just need to be there for them. So enjoy being a quilter and stand up for Ukraine, and check out the websites that are out there that are supporting, and if you can, make a donation, and if not, you can just, this alone will help show them that you support. The other thing I want to let you know is I have 2 churches that are close to me that I have actually been able to either go on their website and check out what we can do to help them, to go right to that church to help families in the Ukraine. So enjoy being a quilter. Stand up with other quilters and for the Ukraine. Check out Pat Sloan's website. It's amazing. This block is amazing. I thank her for doing it. But thank you again for joining us today, and let's help support Ukraine.